on, everybody. I'm Andrea Lipinski.
And I'm Keith DeCandido. Welcome to another overwhelming episode of The Chronic Rift. Tonight, we're going to be giving you news, reviews, previews, interviews, room with the views, all kinds of views in the fantasy, science fiction, and comic art fields.
Tonight, we're discussing the cult TV show that even the CBS networks couldn't kill, Beauty and the Beast.
But first, I have a question. Why are you dressed like that?
For spring break. You have to get into the spirit of things.
That's true. Give him the news.
Okay. We thought we were the first, or at least the original, but apparently there is a predecessor to the Chronic Rift. Viewers of Arlington Community Television in Virginia can watch the science fiction program Fast Forward every month on Channel 33. Hosted by John Pomerantz, this show features interviews with authors, a news segment, book reviews, and really keen films that are supplied by NASA. Recent guests have included Hal Clement, Charles Sheffield, and Kim Stanley Robinson. The show has been on the air for over 3 years now. They plan to have Douglas Adams and David Brin in the future. If you know anyone in the Virginia or D.C. area, tell them to check it out on Mondays at 9 o'clock p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m.
Yeah, but did Pomerantz ever get to lean against a pillar and talk to Isaac Asimov? That's what I want to know. Anyway, continuing in our search for Star Trek The Next Generation being embarrassed in print, Spy Magazine recently had this gag going whereby they had their staff people pretend to be agents and call various TV shows telling them that someone famous wanted to be involved with them, like Marlon Brando being on Father Dowling Mysteries, stuff like that. They called Rick Berman, the executive producer of The Next Generation, and told them that Japanese director Akira Kurosawa wanted to direct an episode of Star Trek. Berman said they were, quote, honored and flattered that the great director wanted to work on Star Trek. What we want to know is if this phone call came before or after they did the third season episode A Matter of Perspective, which was a direct ripoff of Kurosawa's film Rashomon.
This week's book note is the latest in Tor Books' fairy tale series, Pamela Dean's Tam Lim. This book takes the medieval Scots ballad of a young woman who rescues her love from the fairy queen and updates it to a modern Minnesota college campus. This hardcover sells for $17.95. And we don't know how much the paperback is, because it's not out yet. Back with us this week is the man in black with the latest in video news.
One of the things that's caused my life in video much irritation are the low budget, never seen in any major market science fiction movies that come out on videotape. Now, of course, that's one of the ancillary uses of the video market. I don't mind this because I finally get to see some of these pictures. However, I do object to them being $79.95 to $89.95 retail. Have any of you ever heard of Endless Descent or Project Alien? The newest one of these dogs is Mutator, being released by Prism on May 1st. If this is as bad as any of the other things that I've seen on tape lately, I'll wait for these bombs to come out at $19.95. My rental customers don't want to pay $3 a night for these tapes. Even the fleas won't touch these dogs. Disney has once again dipped into the vault and come up with a gem. The Jungle Book is being released on May 3rd at a very reasonably priced $24.95. If recent history is any indicator, grab this one fast, as Disney will probably pull it from the shelf after an extremely short time. From CBS Fox, we have the latest 4 Doctor Who episodes on tapes. These are The Ark in Space, Spearhead from Space, Terror of the Zygons, and The Time Warrior. 2 of these are Tom Baker episodes, and 2 are John Pertwee episodes. They're priced for sell-through at $19.95 and are a must for most Doctor Who fans. From the belly of the video beast, Midnight Movie Massacre rises. Want to see how Hollywood boosts science fiction? You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss $90. Goodbye. Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back. This is the intro to the poster for Child's Play 2, a puppet show that makes me wish for Thunderbirds episodes. Although this didn't do badly at the box office, it wasn't a barn burner either. This means that we have to help make up the loss by having it priced at $92.95. And of course, The Revenge of the Laserdisc People. This film will be out on disc at $34.95. Coming to better video stores on April 28th. Coming to your video store in June, The Howling, Part 6. You didn't know they went that far, did you? Have any of you seen The Bride of Reanimator yet? Currently playing in theaters. If you miss it, you'll have your chance to rent it real soon now. Coming to video stores on April 11th, they began soliciting this film before the body was cold. I'm still taking bets that the tape is released while the film is still playing in theaters somewhere, probably on a triple bill at 42nd Street. Priced at the ever-popular $89.95, you have a choice between the R-rated and the unrated versions. Ooh. Ever wonder what Keith Carradine, Gary Busey, and Scott Glenn do when they're not making decent movies? Check out The Shrieking, due out April 4th. This is one of Prism's saner decisions. It's only priced at $79.95. For those of you with beta machines, you can thumb your noses at all those people with VHS again. The price for this tape on beta is a remarkably cheap $29.95. You know, at this rate, it's cheaper to buy a beta VCR and just get beta tapes as they come out. Think about it. How many tapes do you have to buy, saving $60 to $70 per tape to pay for a VCR? You think maybe this is a conspiracy by Sony? This is the Man in Black. Have a good day and a happy viewing.
Thank you again, Man in Black. Anything that the Man in Black mentions here tonight is not a dream, but rather can be found at Omega Zone and other area specialty shops. And now, back tonight with the world of comic books is Keith, alias Keithy Baby DeCandido.
In the words of Jack Womack, thank you, and welcome to Comic Art Commentary. Comic art has very rarely been the subject of gallery exhibitions, unless it was an exhibit of Roy Lichtenstein or Andy Warhol, both of whom used comic art in their collages. The Museum of Modern Art recently used comics in their high-low exhibit, but the comics were the low part of the show, and in any event, that show was pretty universally lambasted by both art critics and comics critics. There are, however, two exhibits, one in the planning stages, one unfortunately not local, that are being actually curated by comics professionals. The first is called Misfit Lit, and is being curated by Fantagraphics publishers Gary Groth and Kim Thompson, and being shown in Seattle's Center for Contemporary Art. The show opened March 15th and will run until the 4th of May. If you know anyone in Seattle, you should tell them to go and check it out. Art Spiegelman, the creator of Mouse, is co-curating with John Carlin an exhibit at the Exit Art Gallery in Soho. This will be opening somewhere around the beginning of 1992 and is tentatively called Comics Power, and will look at the history of comics over the last 10 years through the eyes of the anthology that Spiegelman edits with his wife, Françoise Mouly, Raw. The new issue of Raw, by the way, should be out any day now from Penguin. I'll have more details on that gallery exhibit at Exit Art as soon as I find out what they are. This week's comic in review is Frank Frazetta's Johnny Comet, published by Eclipse Books. Frazetta is best known now for his posters and his cover art. However, he did a lot of strips in the 40s and 50s. This one was about a race car driver named, well, Johnny Comet. It was written ostensibly by Frank DePaolo, although DePaolo's contribution is debatable. It's possible he only contributed as much as his name, and the safety tips that appeared in the daily strips and the answers to car-related queries that readers sent in the Sunday strips. Comet is a racer, and the strip focuses on the exploits of him and his friends on and off the racetrack. It owes a great deal to popular films of the 30s and 40s. You've got the gorgeous, noble male lead. You've got the drop-dead gorgeous blonde female lead. You've got the equally drop-dead gorgeous brunette femme fatale. And you've got, of course, the side characters for comic relief. All the elements are there in Comet. Partway through the strip, both the title character and the strip itself were changed to Ace McCoy when the strip and the character went Hollywood in an attempt to drum up interest in the strip. It didn't work. The strip barely lasted a year. My only real complaint with this collection that Eclipse has put out is that the color Sundays are not in color. They're in black and white, but that probably would have hiked the price up a bit. One would buy this not for the same reason that one buys Fred and Ginger movies, say. It's for the visuals, not the stories. The stories are dumb. However, Frazetta's art is gorgeous. He especially draws women well, as many of his male readers will attest. Anyway, Johnny Comet is being published by Eclipse Books, 222 pages, $14.95 for the paperback, and a horse-choking $40 for the hardcover. What can I tell you? One last thing, Penn, the author group, is sponsoring a panel on graphic novels at the City University Graduate Center on 43rd Street between 5th and 6th. It's going to be on the 8th of April at about 7:30 in the evening, and will include the aforementioned Art Spiegelman, as well as Jacques de Lustal, Robert Hughes, and a bunch of others. And that's all for Comic Art Commentary this week. Back to you, Ms. Lipinski.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
This week's memorable moment comes to us from Margaret O'Connell, who wanted to see this scene from the movie The Dark Crystal. By the way, Margaret, that was a doll you saw in our Creation Convention Highlights episode and not a real baby. Thanks again for the letter and for your thoughtfulness. We have Dawn Song by Sharon Green, with a very scantily clad woman on the cover.
Hubba, 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 hubba.
Yeah. And Gundam 2 Escalation by Yoshiyuki Tomino. This is one of these, this is, well, they're both seemingly, are these both sort of men things?
Don't look at me, I just work here.
If you're feeling versatile, we hope that you will enjoy them. And remember, anything you'd like to write to us about, from memorable moments to marriage proposals to either Keith or myself, To food, byproducts for John, beer for Ben, money and checks for the rest of the crew, anything else can be sent to us here at the Rift.
Hang on!
Wings. I don't have wings.
Of course not. You're a boy.
From the moment I saw her, she captured my heart.
Beauty and the Beast was created by Ron Koslow and first aired in the fall of 1987. Starring Linda Hamilton as the Beauty and Ron Perlman as the Beast. It lasted 3 seasons in various time slots on the CBS network, who, in true CBS fashion, didn't give it a chance to build an audience before deciding that it needed retooling. It did develop that audience, though. The show has garnered a cult following akin to Star Trek's in a remarkably short amount of time. Those fans have mounted letter-writing campaigns to keep the show on the air, and kept the show alive in other ways. And while no new episodes are being made, reruns are now being shown Monday nights on the Family Channel. But what exactly is the show about?
Her warmth and her courage. I knew then, as I know now, she would change my life forever.
He comes from a secret place, far below the city streets, hiding his face from strangers, safe from hate and harm. He brought me there to save my life. And now, wherever I go, he is with me in spirit. For we have a bond stronger than friendship or love. And although we cannot be together, we will never, ever be apart.
With Keith and me to discuss this are, on my far right, Wendy Pini, creator of the Elfquest comic book and adapter of the show into graphic novel form. On my inner right, Stephanie Wiltse, editor of Pipelines, a Beauty and the Beast fan magazine. And on my far left, Angela Fernan, a graphic artist who is producing a video version of Pipelines with Stephanie. Stephanie, you're the editor of the fan magazine, so maybe I can ask you, what is it exactly about the show that appeals to so many people?
Do you have 2 hours?
Give us the Reader's Digest condensed version.
Right.
What it means.
Well, it means different things to different people. I think the romance is about the most universal thing that is considered the drawing card of it. For other people, it's the fantasy of the world below. The characterizations, the beauty of the way that the series itself was filmed, just the general quality of the writing even. You can go on and on.
How do you think the story appealed to people from the beginning? Okay, like myself, starting from scratch a little while ago. My understanding of Beauty and the Beast was I had read the fairy tale, I suppose, when I was very young, and I had seen the movie, the French film where at the end she kisses the Beast and he turns into a prince and they fly off into the heavens. Yeah. I actually, that was one thing that I liked about the show, was that he stayed a beast. I thought that was a real cop-out, that he changed into a prince at the end. But how do you think, what would you say was people's general reaction when it first came out? Were people disappointed because it wasn't living up to their old expectations, or do you think they were impressed that it was adapted so well?
Well, of the people that saw it from the first night on, who deemed themselves very lucky, the atmospherics of the show was what hit them first. They were considering just a rip-off, some sort of very strange attempt at a new manimal. And what they found instead was something that could be very inner-speaking, can be sweet and loving and very romantic, and yet at the same time show the hard edge of the city as well as the very strange and mystical world below.
Wendy, when you were working on your graphic novel, you were on the set of the show for a little while. Do you want to tell us about your impressions?
Well, my impressions were that what was going on the set during the creation of the show was very much what was going on in each episode of the show, which is, it was very much a loving family kind of situation. The crew and the cast and the writers and everybody involved all cared a great deal about the product, and there was just a very warm atmosphere on the set.
What do you think happened to the show? I know it went through a lot of changes, especially at the end of the second and the third season. Did you, as somebody who just watched the show, saw the show as a viewer, you know, what happened to it? What went wrong with it? I mean, did anything go wrong? I mean,
as far as I'm concerned, nothing really went wrong. I mean, if you want to go back to when Linda Hamilton decided to leave the show, a lot of people were extremely upset about that. I mean, you cannot force the woman to stay where she didn't want to be, obviously.
Yeah, but she also got top billing, and it's always dangerous when a show loses the character who has top billing.
That's right. I mean, I don't know what they could possibly have done other than, I mean, there was some talk about replacing her, you know, bringing another one, but knowing the temperament of a lot of the people there, that wouldn't have been acceptable either. I don't think CBS gave it a chance to really go through the third season, because it started off with what people consider a lot of violence, which it really wasn't. I mean, I could point out shows in the first and second season that were much more violent than the third season. And it would have eventually...
Had that whole thing where that massacre of the people who...
Oh, I mean, they had, you know, prostitutes with their throats slit, and wonderful, nice little thing.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, I think eventually if they had given it a chance, it would have gotten back to the same track it was on in the first season especially.
If I might interject, the heads of CBS changed, the guard changed at CBS right about the time that the third season was in development, and the point of view from the people at the top at CBS was, we have to cash in on the Batman craze now. So Vincent has to become Batman, and he has to go up on the surface a lot more and really fight evil and crime. And in other words, the original premise they felt had to be changed so they could draw in more of a male audience. Unfortunately, it backfired on.
So they were shifting away from the romance.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed, especially in the first season. The focus, even though, I mean, you had the potential for a real crime thing here. Here she is, she's in the investigative office of the district attorney, and her boyfriend's this big hairy guy with claws. You've got plenty of possibilities for lots of, you know, crime stuff, violence, you know, jumping on rooftops and destroying the criminal element, and they didn't do that. The focus of the show was always on the two of them, always on their relationship with each other. They played off each other really well. That's one thing that I was impressed with, was Hamilton and Perlman really worked well together. You know, they really, you actually sensed that there was a relationship there, which is nice, because a lot of relationships on television tend to be pretty superficial.
I might add, too, that the third season was done with, I believe, the writers kind of trying to force back some of the CBS intervention as much as they possibly could. So it was a little bit like making lemonade without a whole lot of lemons. So in some ways, given the opportunities they had, they came up with something that was very mythic in its overall sense.
I'm going to comment on something now that I'm sure is not going to be very popular, or at least with 3 out of 5 of us here. Keith and I were not really familiar with this show before we just started watching it. We said, oh, we're doing a show on Beauty and the Beast. Have you seen it? No. Have you seen it? Oh,
No.
God. I had to rent all these films.
Running out, renting tapes, borrowing tapes, mad scurrying around.
So it's like, I'll get the pilot. No, watch them in order. Oh, okay. So we watched all this stuff.
Crash course.
And, yeah, okay, so we took a crash course in Beauty and the Beast. And I don't really get it. There are certain things that I do like about the show. I like the fact that that Catherine was not a conventional beauty. I mean, that impressed me. Okay, when you first, see her, I'm thinking, oh, she's going to be some model type that nobody can identify with. And she looked, human. She wasn't downright knockout gorgeous, but, she could be beautiful, sort of depending on the lighting, depending on the mood. That I admired. I admired the fact that that the Beast stays a beast. I did think it was a cop-out in the French film where he turns into a prince and he loses all his charisma and then he flies off into the sky. I thought that was a cop-out.
Also, the production values in the show are also fantastic. The sets were gorgeous. You know, all the little details that they put into, especially like Father's Den and Vincent's bedroom and all of that, and all the sets really looked real. There was a good visual feel to the show, which helps a lot. But
I'm making my
yes,
negative
there's a
point
big
here.
but here.
Okay, Stephanie, you mentioned the writing before. The writing sometimes I thought was very overdone. I have a quote here. This is Vincent. When I see you, Catherine, I'm filled with a happiness sweeter than anything I've ever known. And at the same time, I'm reminded of a life that can never be. And I feel great pain. I know, so do I. Vincent, what will we do? The only thing we can do. We'll endure the pain and savor every moment of the joy. It makes my feelings hurt. It just, I really.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing you really don't need to say because it's the premise. That sums up the premise of the show. Everybody knows that coming into the show. It's not like they need to say it again. You know?
Well, if you've ever read any 19th century romantic novels,
Oh yes. Yes.
you'll see that it has a definite connection with even the romantic genre itself.
We got the same name as the female protagonist of Wuthering Heights, if you want to get technical about it.
It drew from many other literary origins, and in some ways, they tried to bring it in at every turn. So,
Yeah. But sometimes it seemed a little gratuitous. I mean, in this quote, in this passage that I was quoting from, they had the whole story. This was about, I don't remember the exact name, the one about the children.
The children's story.
Right. So there's this entire plot that's going on, and it's like, oh, love scene. Let's put it here. So they did a love scene, and then they go back to the plot. I mean, it was like, you know, it didn't seem to flow.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that particular story. That was not one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, I think I saw it the first time, and then I said, okay, just kind of put that aside. I mean, let's face it, nobody can be 100%. You know?
I think that the show was most successful when the characters showed by their actions rather than by their words what the relationship was. When we first proposed the Beauty and the Beast graphic novels to the Beauty and the Beast people, they evaluated the stories that we submitted and the scripts as if they were teleplays, and I found that in writing for Vincent and Catherine, the less that was said, the better. It was much better to show through their actions what they felt for each other and their facial expressions. And Ron Perlman and Linda Hamilton are such capable actors that really not too many words are needed.
He's got that wonderful voice. It's a striking.
You felt that you were able to convey that in the graphic novel? I mean, I'm sort of thinking novel, this is my limited perspective, I'm thinking novel has a lot of writing, so I'm thinking of a lot of dialogue, but you were able to have more, you know, facial expressions?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, a graphic novel is really just a movie on paper, if you want to put it that simplistically. But I found that the more that I could bring out in the eyes and the faces and in the body gestures, the less I needed to have them say to each other. It wasn't important. We knew that the longtime fans of Beauty and the Beast would get the relationship instantly and they would want the book. But we were hoping to introduce a new audience to Beauty and the Beast, perhaps people who hadn't picked up on the TV show and might discover it through the book.
Do you know if you found that?
Judging by the letters we got, and many of them were from men because comic books are still traditionally a male medium.
You know, all these books with testosterone-drenched superheroes.
Absolutely.
Sort of,
well, that's why I included a lot of Vincent going scritchy-scratchy just to entice the male.
Without the applause.
Judging from the letters that I got, which came from men, they said, you know, I can't stand the show. My girlfriend likes it, but I don't because it's too gushy. But I read the graphic novel and I got a better understanding of it. I think men are, in general, uncomfortable with too much all hanging out there, and they're more comfortable with understatement, perhaps.
And you think you still kept the female audience in the process?
Apparently, apparently it was pretty even, the response from men and women.
The show really has an amazing cult following. I'm amazed at how fast it grew. I mean, that was when we decided to do a show on it, was partly because we had seen at conventions and such the huge all the stuff, you know.
Creative bunch,
all the
yeah.
pillows, the poems, the drawings, the this, the that, the other, the newsletters. Yeah, that's stuff that you
A lot of people find it very inspiring, but getting back a little bit to the previous, they literally had to do poetry, literature, romance between the two major characters, social statements, sometimes with the overall episode and sometimes with an individual incident. And they literally were mix-mastering together elements that you don't normally find in TV series. And I think that's why it brought so many people to it that needed to respond creatively.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about Pipeline or the video
Real
version?
quick.
Very
Real quick.
Right.
Well, I'm in
No,
my
the
fourth
reader-
year.
the Reader's
This is what
Digest
it looks
version.
like. This is the video edition
Hold on
of
for a
this,
second.
which will be on sale shortly. And it goes out to about 1,500 people. It has everything in it from news on the show itself to news about what the fans are doing, a mammoth classified ad section. And it's
Classified
very,
ads, like people buying and selling
Merchandise.
Vincent pillows or something?
yes, and a lot of people who missed episodes wanting video help. So, and also I try to keep track of all the movements of the actors and through various projects and everything.
Yes, what is Ron Perlman doing now that he doesn't have to put on makeup for 2 hours before every show? Awesome. Use that voice all the time.
Well, he was in A Few Good Men on Broadway.
Yes.
For a few months. They, it was funny, you just noticed the box office figures. They doubled once he started. And there were crowds out there every night just looking for his
Probably
autograph.
nobody recognized him either.
No, as a matter of fact, one of my friends was there when a school bus load of children showed up to see some other play, and they just happened to park the bus near there. And a bunch of kids jumped off, spotted him, and went running over to him, and it was like, oh, it's Vincent. And they knew exactly who he was, and oh, it was incredible.
Well, either that or you recognize him when you have your eyes closed. You sit there in the theater and you go, oh, Vincent, yes, that's it.
I have
we
one.
have to,
I have one quick
gotta
plug.
stop.
One quick plug. Ron
Right.
Coslow's new series, My Life and Times, will be on April 15th, a Wednesday, on ABC.
Okay.
And it'll be starting, that'll be a regular time slot at 9:30.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Next week we'll be talking about Ursula K. Le Guin, and we will see you then. Right?
Right.
Right. Good night.
Good night.
This episode was sponsored in part by Comics Interview, the magazine where both the fans and the pros turn to see who's who and how it's done. For a free sample copy or special discount on any Comics Interview publication, write to Comics Interview, 234 5th Avenue, Suite 301, New York, New York, 10001. Omega Zone, a store specializing in comic books and video movie rentals, located at 46 8th Avenue between West 4th and Horatio in Manhattan. Telephone 212-645-6941.